Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, this is news that you have all been waiting for, but I suspect that it would not be news to a lot of you. Guys, I bring you this. Nigerians risk reversal of decades of economic growth. So a headline attributed to the World Bank. So this is the World Bank now saying this. All of the achievements of our previous regimes. You remember, of course, how Obasanjo single-handedly wiped out all of the deficits of the Nigerian state. To put it in credit, you will also recall a lot of the achievements of Goodluck Jonathan, the railway system, the Almanjeri schools, the road constructions. According to Fashola, Goodluck Jonathan has been singularly the one president above all else that has built the most roads within the Nigerian state. So all of that achievement, the economic growth, the recalibrating of the Nigerian economy to make it the leading economy in the world, the leading rather African economy in the world under Goodluck Jonathan. All of that achievement has completely been eroded to the point now that we are going to be set back by several decades. Again, Nigerians risk reversal of decades of economic growth, a headline attributed to the World Bank. So now let's now see what the World Bank report is on the Mallam Buhari regime. An average Nigerian might witness a reversal of decades of economic growth, and the country might slip into its worst depression since the 1980s in the next 3 years, the World Bank said on Thursday in a website statement. The latest World Bank Nigeria Development Update (NDU) observed that the trend could be averted provided present reforms were sustained and right blend of policy measures were put in place. The report examined the recently executed reforms in Africa's biggest economy and prescribed policy options as buffers against the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic in order to achieve a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive recovery. Nigeria is at a critical historical juncture with a choice to make, Shuban Chadri, World Bank Country Director for Nigeria, said. Nigeria can choose to break decisively from business as usual and rise to its considerable potential by sustaining the bold reforms that have been taken thus far and going even further with an even greater sense of urgency to promote faster and more inclusive economic growth. The World Bank document forecasted the economy could tighten by 4% this year by reasons of double whammy of COVID-19 and weak oil price. The speed of recovery next year and after is pretty unpredictable and subject to the swiftness of reforms, the multilateral lender said. Lack of measures to lessen the weight of the COVID-19 pandemic on the poor and vulnerable is projected to shoot their population up by 15 to 20 million by 2020. The World Bank remarked that the food crisis had escalated significantly whilst economic precarity is on the rise because unemployed workers have migrated to the low productivity agricultural sector. Nigeria can build on its reform momentum to contain the spread of the COVID-19 stimulated economy and enable the private sector to be the engine of growth and job creation, said Marco Hernandez, World Bank lead economist for Nigeria. It can also redirect public spending from subsidies that benefit the rich towards investment in Nigeria's people and youth in particular, and lay foundations for strong recovery to help make progress towards lifting 100 million people out of poverty. The NDU recommended policy options in 5 aspects that would serve as mitigants to the impact of the crisis and aid Nigeria's economic recovery. they include managing local spread of C-19 until the availability of vaccine for distribution, improving microeconomic management to strengthen investors' confidence, as well as protecting and generating revenues. The rest were reprioritizing public spending to secure key development expenditure and supporting economic activities and access to basic services and availing relief to poor and vulnerable communities. So these are the recommendations of the World Bank now, but the thrust of it, of course, is that the Mallam Buhari regime has now effectively set Nigeria back by decades. So if you look at that report now, the headline especially that Nigeria has now regressed by decades, this is really an alarming and an existential threat. So Nigeria is regressing by decades, but the rest of the world, more so our immediate neighbors, for example Ghana, they are accelerating at an alarming rate. So they've just had elections in Ghana now. They had elections on Monday, by the way. There was minimal to no violence in that election. The votes were counted and accounted for, and the will of the people held sway, and they returned a government that they felt was performing. So contrast that with what we have in Nigeria. We have an 80-something-year-old man who is completely debilitated, both physically and mentally, sitting in situation and being just puppet handled. We had elections in February 2019 where the people decided against this 80-something-year-old Mallam Buhari, but Mahmoud Yakubu, of course, whose account has been packed with billions of dollars, has now just written out a result and told you that you would live with this Mallam Buhari whether you like it or not. So that whether you like it or not now is what is being vested upon the Nigerian state. So look at the Ghanaian president and contrast that with the Nigerian president. The Ghanaian president is sharp, is alert, is erudite, is intelligent, he has a good grasp of language, and he has a good grasp of international diplomacy. This is a guy that is loved around the world, and the Westerners warm to him because he speaks the language of development, and he speaks to the language that tells them that with his trajectory, with the direction that is propelling this country towards, they have no reasons to concern themselves with Ghana anymore, because Ghana is now on its feet. So Ghana has electricity, Ghana has oil, Ghana is building roads, Ghana is creating environments for people of our international dimensions to come and live. They had the year of return, I think a year or so ago, where they were inviting black people to come and come into their country, etc. So contrast that now with what we have in Nigeria. We're still struggling to find the schools out of our president, and indeed we're even struggling to find the president now, because this guy has been in Aso Rock since 2015 and has not come out once to even show his face to the Nigerian people who he purports to have dominion over, never mind explaining what his plans are and having those plans so like perused and interrogated by the Nigerian people. So this is the contrast now, and this is the reason primarily why the World Bank has concluded that Nigeria has now regressed by decades. So the regression of Nigeria, of course, I mean, they say the fish, it rots from the head. If you buy a fish and you leave it for a day or two out in the open air, the fish starts to rot. But when you go and look at how that fish is rotting, the fish you will see is rotting from the head to the rest of the body. So if we have a no school sat, religious and cultural jingoist as a president, then of course we would have this sort of experience that we're having in Nigeria, to the point now that the World Bank have concluded that Nigeria has now regressed by decades. So decades is not 1 decade. 1 decade is 10 years, by the way. So if they are saying Nigeria is now regressing or has now regressed by decades, so decades is not 1 year, because there's an S behind that decade. So not 1 year rather, but 10 years. So decades is not just 10 years. Decades is at least 2 decades or more. So we're effectively saying now that Nigeria, this is according to the World Bank, has regressed by a minimum of 20 years under the short 5 years or so that Mallam Buhari has been in charge. So now another 3 years of this, of course, now if you go by the mathematics, then the country would have regressed by a good 40 years, and we're already seeing it anyway. Where else in the world would casual Fulani man just stroll down the street in Yoruba land with an AK-47 and gun people down and kidnap them and do as he wills with their women without any repercussion? So this is the regression. The economy is in comatose. This insecurity in the country is just wild, and of course there is no sign of a president, and is now even refusing to go to the National Assembly or the House of Representatives to give account of his tenure. So the regression of Nigeria now is the alert that the World Bank is signaling to the Nigerian state. But then, of course, how does this play out is really where the question is. Come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. But before you come share those thoughts, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Click on like as well, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm. Then once you've done all the clickings, come join me then. The World Bank has stated that Nigeria has regressed by a minimum of 20 years. But what is your calculation? My estimation is that that country has been set back by a good solid 50 years. But whatever your calculations are, come tell me all about it in the comment section. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.